Welcome on into the Old Aussie Rules Football Podcast. I'm John. This is episode number 29 of season 2026. Today we've got a round 9 review coming up. We're going to go through all 9 matches from the weekend's football. We'll then check out our Brownlow leaderboard, our MVP leaderboard, and we'll round out the episode as we do each and every single week with our tips from the weekend. How did we go? We'll go through them. Yeah, that's pretty much the plan. If you're new around here, we do 2 episodes every single week. Round review episode goes out every Monday, which is this episode. And then on Thursday, we do a preview of the upcoming round. So that will be going out this Thursday, round 10 preview. So make sure you come back for that. Make sure you hit follow or subscribe, depending on your preferred platform for podcasts. And yeah, other than that, let's jump into it. We've got 9 games to get through. Let's not waste any time. We kicked off Thursday night, as we do most weeks, Thursday night football. This week it was a Fremantle Hawthorn. It was over in the West at Optus Stadium, a weird sort of game in many ways. First half, Hawthorn looked really good. Fremantle finished the game really strongly and got over the line. But yeah, that's pretty much the short story. Sorry, not the long story. First quarter, pretty even. Fremantle just in front. Hawthorn then led all the way through until late in the final quarter, when Fremantle managed to kick the last 5 goals of the match to overrun Hawthorn and win it by 15 points. Gunston huge early. He kicked his at half time, I think. Hawthorn had 9 goals, and I think 8 of them were either Nick Watson or Jack Gunston, and I think that was a big issue for them in the end in this game, was the fact that they just didn't have enough avenues to goal. Gunston ended up with 6 goals too. Nick Watson kicked his 3. There's 9 goals out of their 11. Just not enough avenues in the end to go, and that's probably an issue for them on this occasion. I don't think it's a long-term issue, but it certainly was here. Team stats, we'll jump into that, or as we always do around here. Anything stands out? Freo had a lot of inside 50s. Certainly that last quarter, they dominated it. Plus 14 for the match. Most of that work was done in that last quarter, where they absolutely dominated territory and the ground. And Hawthorn didn't have an answer, really. Stoppages, clearances went the way of Fremantle, plus 12, plus 4 in centre clearances, plus 8 in stoppage clearances. Not too unexpected. Fremantle are a pretty good clearance team. Hawthorn, outside of last week against Collingwood, not the greatest clearance team. Outside of Jai Newcombe, typically dominating it. Contested football went the way of Hawthorn, surprisingly. Uncontested was pretty even. Turnovers, pretty low numbers for both teams. Tells you that maybe disposal efficiency and stuff wasn't too bad in this game. Was actually pretty high. Both teams above their average. So I don't think pressure was exactly low. So I don't think that's the reason. It was just good conditions, and the players made use of it on the most part until it was in front of goal. Fremantle kicked 12 goals, 16. So pretty inaccurate. I don't think they'll be too happy with that. They had 9 extra shots for the game and only won by 15 points. Probably should have won by a little bit more. Obviously, they started to be efficient forward late, because I think they must have been like 7 goals, 14, I think, at one point, and ended up 12 goals, 16. So kicked pretty straight late. But it could have been a disaster for them had they not started kicking straight late. Anything else that stands out here? Score sources. Stoppage scoring from Fremantle was really good. As we said, they dominated clearances. They also dominated scoring from stoppage. Defensive half was pretty good. Neither team did much from the forward half, both pretty low, both AFL and their own averages. But there was 5 goals from centre bounce, 3 goals for Fremantle, 2 for Hawthorn. overall, I felt like Fremantle were probably across the four quarters the better team. I think Hawthorn looked pretty good early, especially with Gunston doing really well. But in the end, yeah, Fremantle just turned it on, certainly in that last quarter, and got the job done. Brownlow votes, we got Luke Jackson. He's been in superb form. His last 3 or 4 weeks have been as good as anybody in the competition. He has been super. Frederick was huge in that last quarter. He was crucial in their win. And 1 vote to Jack Gunston for his 6 goals. Obviously, 5 of those in the first half. Didn't have as much impact in the second half. There's other reasons for that as well. But yeah, that's the Brownlow votes we're going with. Highest rated players using the All Aussie Rules rating system. If you're new here, we rate every single player, every single game. And yeah, top 5 players get MVP votes from each team. For Fremantle, top 5, Luke Jackson, as we said, his form lately has been super. Caleb Sarong was good throughout the game. Michael Frederick, as we said, his last quarter was huge. Josh Tracy continues to be one of the best target forwards in the competition. He's really good hands. And Hayden Young was solid again. Not as good as he was last week, but was crucial in that last quarter, like Michael Frederick. For the Hawks, it was Josh Battle who had to do bulk of the key defending in this one, and did it pretty well. James Sicily, next up, was solid in this one. He had plenty of football again. Jack Gunston kicked the 6 goals. Carl Amon was good. Josh Ward was their 5th highest rated player. I think Fremantle were the better team. They get the win. Hawthorn, it's not the end of the world. They're still in a really strong position. Funnily enough, using our ELO rating system, this now means that Fremantle have jumped Hawthorn as the number 1 team for expected wins this season. Just taken over. Hawthorn had been leading the way all season, but with a draw last week and then a loss here, Fremantle expected win tally is now ahead of Hawthorn based on who both teams have left to play. Well, every team in the competition has left to play. So, yeah, just an interesting note. Also, we'll just quickly go through what's coming up for both teams. Hawthorn take on Melbourne this week. That's a big game. Melbourne are in some good form. Hawthorn will be expected to win that, but I certainly wouldn't be putting it in the books. And then if they play Adelaide down in Tassie, I didn't mean to change game yet. Fremantle are sitting second on the ladder. They have the Bombers this week. A really, really good opportunity to move to 9-1 and continue their really strong start to the season. I think they've won 18. Well, they have won 8 in a row because they lost their first game. So I think that equals their all-time record for most wins in a row. Win this week against the Bombers, and all of a sudden, they're up to 9 in a row and an all-time Fremantle record. So that would be huge. It is in Melbourne, but you'd expect them to win. And then they have St Kilda over in Perth the following week. And then before Brisbane at the Gabba. So round 12 is where it's looking like maybe that streak will end. Maybe it'll end before then. But either way, they're playing some really good football. And yeah, they're certainly looking good early days. But premierships aren't won in whatever month we're in, May. Next up, we had 2 Friday night games. We'll kick it off first of all with Brisbane Carlton. It was at the Gabba. Weird sort of game again. There was a lot of this sort of weird sort of football across the weekend. Brisbane kicked away early, up 14 at quarter time. They were out by 6 goals to 38-point lead at half time. Then kicked the first couple of the third quarter, and it looked like maybe it was going to be a 60, 70-point win heading the way of the Lions. But the Blues turned it on. They ended up kicking 6 goals in that third quarter, and then 5 goals in the final quarter to have an 11-goal-5 second half to the Lions 6 goals 8 in the second half. So really, really good finish by the Blues. Was too little too late in the end. Maybe Brisbane took the foot off the pedal a little bit, but I mean, positive signs for the Blues, but they did this 2 weeks earlier when they went to Fremantle and looked pretty good across 4 quarters there, before playing St Kilda and not looking great at all in that second half. So they seem to be travelling a little bit better than they do play at home at the moment. So maybe worth noting that. Maybe when people write them off completely, they look a little bit better. But Brisbane win. That was all they had to do. They're flying along. Looking at the stats in this one, Carlton actually had an extra 45 disposals in this game. They also had 4 extra inside 50s. Kind of the theme of the weekend was teams having more inside 50s and losing games. We'll see that pop up quite a few of the matches. Clearances were dominated by Brisbane, plus 11. Contested football, all the way of Carlton. Certainly that second half, they looked good in that area. Uncontested football, they also did really well in, which is not something that Carlton do too often. So positive signs there. Low turnover game, 55 to 57. Reasonably high marks for both teams. Not huge tackles. Carlton only laid 38 tackles, but it kind of worked for them, didn't it? Other team stats worth looking at here, mainly scoring-wise. Carlton kicked 3 goals from kick-in to Brisbane's 1. 3 goals in a match is a really good return. Scoring from stoppage could have been really one-sided, but Brisbane kicked poorly in front of goal, 6 goals, 10. And from turnover, it was 48 to 36 in favour of Brisbane. In terms of area of the ground, defensive half, Brisbane plus 4. Forward half was Carlton plus 2. And then centre bounce was Brisbane plus 9. But once again, kicked poorly, 3 goals, 7 from centre bounce. In terms of players, best players on the ground, Brownlow votes were going Lachie Neale 3, Paddy Cripps 2, and Hugh McCluggage 1. There's probably a few other players that are in that conversation as well. Highest rated players, Ryan Lester for the Lions was their highest rated in this one. He was really good, probably his best game of the season. Levi Ashcroft, I haven't gone back and looked, but I would say potentially his highest rated game in AFL so far. I should have gone back and looked, but certainly very close to his best game of his career so far. Lachie Neale was really good, as we said. We gave him the 3 Brownlow votes. Bruce Revel, showing some really good signs. It's starting to show some more consistency and be really good. Hugh McCluggage was their 5th highest rated player. For the Blues, it was Harry Mackay. They got some goals from their forwards in this one. Harry Mackay kicked 3. 3 goals, 2 from 21 touches. He was really good. Paddy Cripps, huge, as Paddy Cripps tends to be. He had 32 touches and a goal. Will Hayward also hit the scoreboard, 22 touches, 3 goals, 2. Sam Walsh, solid. He's been good all year. And Ollie Hollands, their 5th highest rated player. Brisbane, too good in the end. Carlton played really some good football in the end, but they're sitting 1 win, 8 losses, and 7 losses in a row. They play the Bulldogs this week. That's not going to be easy for them. So that will be an interesting watch. Meanwhile, Brisbane, they're sitting top 4 now. I think they already were, but they definitely are now. They're 4th on the ladder. Pretty healthy percentage. 6 wins, 3 losses. They have a grand final rematch this week. Up at the Gabba against, I think it's the Gabba, against Geelong. Big game, that one for both teams. Both teams sitting 6 and 3, 4th and 5th on the ladder. Winner of that puts themselves in a really handy spot. The loser, they'll be fine, but yeah, the winner will be very, very happy with that. So that's next week for both teams. The other Friday night game was Port Adelaide v the Bulldogs. This was at Adelaide Oval. And it went down to the wire. The second week in a row, the Port Adelaide Football Club go down in a thriller. It was 1 point to Adelaide last week. It was 2 points to the Bulldogs this week. 10-14, 74 for the Bulldogs. 10-12, 72 for the Power. Really entertaining game of football. Bulldogs led pretty much the whole time. I don't think Port Adelaide led at any moment. They were obviously level at the opening bounce until about the 2-minute mark when Norton kicked his first. And then Bulldogs led all the way through until 24 minutes into the last quarter, 25 minutes into the last quarter when Port Adelaide got a rush behind to tie it up. I think it was about 2 minutes to play. But then the Bulldogs got 2 behinds really late. Harvey Gallagher snapped one from the pocket, got a point thanks to some fancy footwork from Arthur Jones, and then Will Lewis took a mark and kicked it behind after the siren to extend it out to 2-point win for the Dogs. Not convincing, not super, but it's what they needed after 4 losses in a row. The injury hit Bulldogs just needed to get some points on the board, and they did it. Wasn't pretty, but they did it. Port Adelaide, how different could their season be? In all honesty, they really could be a team that's looking okay right now. You just count the last 2 weeks specifically. They've lost by a combined 3 points. Those results go like 1 goal better off for them each week, and all of a sudden they're sitting 5 wins and 4 losses, and probably sitting 8th on the ladder, 8th or 9th on the ladder. 8th on the ladder, ahead of Adelaide. So crazy to think what could have been. They've had some bad performances, there's no doubt, but you also chuck in just before their win against Geelong, they only lost by 3 points to Hawthorn. So they've had a 1, a 2, and a 3-point loss in the last 4 weeks. They definitely could be a team that is sitting a lot higher on the ladder. Unfortunately, though, for them, if you don't win, you don't win. So their percentage is really healthy, but just a couple too many losses at this point of the season. But maybe they can turn things around. We'll see. Brownlow votes were gone Bontempelli. He was at his best in this one. Riley Sanders, 2 votes. He had a lot of the football, especially in the first 2.5 quarters. And Zach Butters, 1 vote and avoided sanction for a high bump. Team stats we haven't gone through yet, so we'll go through them next. Inside 50 count was hugely dominated by the Bulldogs, 59 to 35, but they just couldn't put a score on the board, whereas Port Adelaide did really well. 35 inside 50s, kicked 10 goals, 12. Clearances dominated Bulldogs, both centre and stoppage clearances. Possession numbers not too different between the two teams. And then we jump into some scoring stuff. Bulldogs had 4 extra shots. Obviously didn't kick very straight. Probably should have won by a bit more than they did, but they, at the end of the day, they don't. Scoring from turnover was dead level. Stoppage was +4 for Bulldogs, which means kick-ins was +2 for Port Adelaide. Defensive half was +10 Bulldogs, +4 from the forward half of the Bulldogs. The only 2 goals from centre bounce all night were both Port Adelaide's way. So Bulldogs not great from the centre bounce in this one, even though they dominated the clearance numbers. They couldn't put the score on the board in this one. Best players for Port Adelaide, highest rated players, Zach Butters. 30 touches again here. He was good. Alia is having a great season. He's definitely top 5 key defender so far this season. Mitch Georgiadis, big key forward, was good. He's their 3rd highest rated player. Kicked 4 goals, 4. So once again, just maybe wasting a few too many opportunities if he wants to become an out-and-out top 2 or 3 key forward. But he's close. He just may be wasting too many opportunities. Logan Evans, 4th highest rated, and then Jace Burgoyne on the wing was 5th. For the Doggies, highest rated player on the ground, Marcus Bontempelli. He's having a fantastic season again. Only that one really quiet game a few weeks back. 30 touches, 7 clearances, and a goal. Joel Frazier doing what he's done best. One of his better games. 26 touches, a goal, 7 clearances, 3 goal assists as well for him. Ed Richards, good game from him in the middle. Connor Butterick is 4th highest. And then Timmy English, he's important to them, there's no doubt about it. He was good in this one. So the Doggies win. Port Adelaide, unfortunately, go down in another close one. Doggies sit 9th on the ladder. They have Carlton next week. A really good opportunity for the Dogs to get 2 wins in a row, get back to 6 and 4, and start trying to build this season. Their key backline is still an issue, especially with injuries, but we'll see how that goes. Port Adelaide, as we said, they could have won the last 4 games. Unfortunately for them, they've only won 1 of those, so that's currently sitting 14th on the ladder. They play Gold Coast this week. That's not going to be an easy assignment. Gold Coast not playing great football, but heading up to Darwin to play that one is not going to be easy. Pretty much nobody's beating Gold Coast up on Darwin. They've won, I think, 9 in a row up there at the moment, so that's going to be a tough challenge for the Power, but they are playing some good football of late. We're moving to Saturday football, and we kick off at Marvel Stadium, North Melbourne, Sydney Swans. North put up a really good fight in this one. Sydney were accurate and get the win in the end, but it went right down to the wire. Kangaroos started really well. At one point, I think they were 6 goals to 3 at one point in that first quarter before a couple late goals to the Swans through McLean and Amati. Just got it back to 7 points at quarter time, and you felt like at the time that was a little costly little couple minutes. If they'd have had a 20-point lead at quarter time, it certainly would have maybe changed things. Sydney came out of quarter time and looked good again. McLean was handy up forward. All their key forwards were pretty good. Isaac Heaney dominated. But then the Kangaroos kicked into gear mid-quarter. They kicked 2 of the last 3 for the quarter and got themselves a narrow lead of 1 point at half-time. Third quarter, Sydney kicked away again, got the momentum going, and then it was kind of Kangaroos fighting back, but down by 13 at 3-quarter time. So it was still pretty close, but you felt like North had wasted a lot of opportunities at this point. And then the last quarter was much more of a stalemate. North kicked 2 goals. Sydney only managed 1 in the final quarter. But in the end, Sydney held on. Finn O'Sullivan took a screamer and a goal late, but to get it back to 8 points wasn't enough. They obviously still needed 2 goals in less than a minute at that point. Zerha had a shot, but yeah, Sydney win, 8 points. Not super impressive, but they have a really good record against the Kangaroos, and that continues here. Team stats is going to read really well for North Melbourne in many ways because, as we said, they had a lot of football. They had a lot of inside 50s. But unfortunately, Sydney were efficient and North not so much. So plus 56 disposals for North, plus 16 inside 50s for the Roos. 1 clearances just, 1 contested, 1 uncontested. Really high turnover game for both teams, especially considering it's at Marvel in perfect conditions. Sydney's disposal efficiency was shocking at below 70%. I think it was like 69.7 maybe. But yeah, they turned it over a lot. Sydney tend to be a high turnover team. It's their game style. The forward handballs, the run and carry and try and get the ball moving as fast as possible. But even Kangaroos were plus 10 on their normal average of turnovers. But they slowed the game up quite well when they needed to, North. And that did allow them to control it at periods. But when Sydney broke the game open, they just couldn't stop them. And that's no knock on North Melbourne. Not every team pretty much this year has really struggled to do that. The only team that really did was Hawthorn, and Sydney were perhaps a little bit undermanned that week with, I think that was the first week Errol Gordon was out, Isaac Heaney was out, so they had some issues that day. But yeah, North put up a really good fight. On a lot of days, North would win this game with this stat sheet, but unfortunately for them, the only day that matters is the one that happened, and they did not win it. Looking at some team stats, North had an extra 4 shots in this game, so no real surprise. They were the expected score winner in this one. Sydney were efficient when they went forward. 26 goals from limited inside 50s. 26 shots, 16 goals from 51 inside 50s. Pretty good efficiency rate going forward. Whereas Kangaroos had, 14 goals from 30 shots. Not terrible accuracy, but not fantastic. But 30 shots from 67 inside 50s. When Sydney is so efficient, it's just not viable in the end. Scoring from stoppages went the way of Swans, even though they lost a clearance game. Turnovers was 1. Scoring-wise, by North Melbourne, 68-59. So that's a really good effort against their Sydney team, making them taking use of the Sydney turnovers, because Sydney do turn over a fair bit, but they don't always concede much from their turnovers. You got to make them pay. Defensive half scoring 41-39, so +2 for the Roos. Forward half was +10 for the Swans. That's where they do their damage, and both teams kicked 14 from the centre bounce. Brownlow votes, we've gone Isaac Heaney. He was best on ground. 2 to Luke Davies-Yanaki and 1 to Harry Sheasel. 3 names that are all quite high on the overall leaderboard of the Brownlow medal. Our Brownlow medal tally so far this year. Spoiler alert, we'll get to that later in this episode. Highest rated players, the Shees. Shees man sits on top for the Roos in this one. He had 31 touches and a goal, 3 clearances. He was good. Luke Davies-Yanaki is having a super season. 34 touches, 6 clearances, 2 goal assists. Zerha in his new role, 22 touches, including a goal. George Wardlaw was good. You know what you're going to get from him. 22 touches, 5 clearances. And the X-Man, Tristan Cherry, had 19 touches and a goal with 9 clearances. Other side of the fence, Sydney Swans, best on ground, no doubt about it in my mind. Isaac Heaney, 24 touches, 3 goals, 7 clearances. The bloke just gets it done. Chad Warner, next up, he had a good game. He's not getting massive numbers, but 18 touches, a goal, 3 clearances, 3 goal assists. Nick Blakey, not as good as a few of his recent weeks, but still really solid. 26 touches, 2 goal assists. Hayden McLean did well up forward. As I said, their key forwards did really well. McLean 3, McDonald 3. McDonald only had 4 disposals, but kicked 3 goals. So McLean 4th highest, and then Riley Bice is 5th on their list. So yeah, as I said, North unlucky in many ways. Other days they win this one a lot of the time, but the only one that counts is this one, and they did no good. Coming up, North Melbourne. They're 12th on the ladder, 4 wins, 5 losses. They've lost their last 3, and it does not get easier. They have the Crows this week. That's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy. There's no doubt about it. That'll be a tough game. Crows trying to find their way back into form. They've won 4 of their last 5. Have they looked super in those? Probably not. But it's going to be a challenge for the Roos, as have the last 3 weeks been. And we did suggest 4 weeks ago that the next month of football was going to be really tough for the Roos. And they needed to try and find a way to get at least 1 win in that month of football. So it keeps getting harder. Sydney Swans, they're sitting top of the ladder, 8 wins, 1 loss. Huge percentage of 157. Only loss against Hawthorn. They play Collingwood up in Sydney this week. Collingwood coming off a really disappointing game on the weekend against Geelong, which we'll get to very shortly. Swans will be massive favourites, and they're just cruising along at the moment. Most things are coming up pretty good for them, so you'd kind of expect them to be going into that one and winning that game of football. Moving on to the next one, and another weird sort of game, weird sort of result. GWS Essendon. GWS end up winning by 14 points, 16-7, 103. Essendon 13, 11, 89. What happened in this game is still kind of blowing my mind a little bit. Goal for goal early. Giants up by 4 points quarter time. Bombers had a really good second quarter, kicking 4 goals to 1 to lead by 15 points at half time. They still were leading most of the way through the third. They even got it out by about 4 goals midway through the third quarter, when Archie Perkins kicked a goal. And you were like, could this be it? Could the Bombers be back? The Giants then kicked 4 in a row to get within a kick, and then Archer May kicked the last, almost the last goal of the quarter, you thought it was, and then the package kicked a goal on the buzzer to get within 2 points at 3-quarter time. The Bombers still led most of the way through the third. Once again, Peter Wright put them out to about 9 points midway through that quarter. And then the Giants, through Cadman, and then Himmelberg, and then Daniels put the pain through really quickly. The Giants took the lead 17-minute mark of the final quarter and ended up going on to win by 14 points. Phoenix Gothard getting the sealer late. Once again, poor kicking in front of goal. Not terrible kicking, but 13-11. And the team that kicks efficiently, 16-7, the Giants get the win. It was that last quarter too, that poor kicking mostly from the Dons. 2 goals 4 in the last quarter to the Giants 5 goals 2. Looking at some team stats in this one, the Bombers had more of the ball, plus 9 disposals. They had plus 15 inside 50s. Once again, their inside 50s are not always great, the Bombers, but they move the ball pretty well. It's just about trying to get that execution and that finish, I think, is their big thing. Clearances, Giants actually won this. We talked about this in our preview last week. Neither team is great at the clearance game. Giants don't like being good at the clearance game, though, I'm pretty sure. I mean, yeah, you do want to win clearances, but at the same time, their game style kind of benefits from not winning clearances. They're a really good rebound and run game team. But this was a little bit different in many ways, and maybe that's why they were struggling so much in this game. Contested football was pretty level, uncontested plus 10 for the Bombers. Turnover count plus 5. So Giants had 5 extra turnovers. Not ideal for them. For a team that typically doesn't do good in clearances, but they did win clearance game this week. Other stats to look at here. The Bombers and the Giants both had 24 shots apiece. The Giants were actually expected to score winners, so that tells you that maybe they were creating better shots, arguably. Bombers had ball in forward half 57% of the time almost. That's crazy. That's not something that the Bombers do too often. But then again, as we said, the Giants are a team that like to fast move the transition game, so it does kind of make a little bit of sense, but the Bombers also not a great team at that. As we said, though, the Giants really good at transitioning the ball from the back half. They did it here. 3 goals from kick-ins and 10 goals from the back half throughout the game. They only kicked 16 in the match, and 10 of those came from the back half. So that orange tsunami was rolling for many chunks of this game. And that's pretty much the difference in the end. Defensive half scoring 63-34. Forward half was Bombers plus 9 and centre bounce was Bombers plus 6. Turnover game plus 9 for the Bombers. Stoppage plus 5 for the Giants. Brownlow votes, we've gone Lockie Whitfield 3. Peter Wright, 2-metre Peter, was good. He gets 2 votes. And Toby Green, 1 vote. I really had trouble with the votes in this game. That could go many different ways. But that's how we've gone. In terms of highest rated players for the Giants, Laverde, against his old team, gets the highest rating, 19 touches, 12 marks. Intercept game was really on point. He was crucial for them. Lockie Whitfield is their second highest rated with 35 touches and a goal assist, 778 metres gained. Connor Iden, good down back, as he tends to be. I think one of the most underrated players, maybe in the competition. Lockie Ash got some midfield minutes, actually. Had some centre bounce attendances. Ends up with 23 touches, 2 goal assists. Didn't get a clearance from those midfield minutes, though. And Finn Callahan, 6 clearances, 30 disposals, 570 metres gained. For the Bombers, Archie Roberts, he gets a lot of the football. He ends up their highest rated player. 42 disposals, 2 goal assists, 700 metres gained. Unfortunately did gift the Giants a goal at a crucial point late in that third quarter, I think it was. But overall, his game was really good. Peter Wright, he's been really good in the ruck. Yeah, he didn't play full-time ruck this game because they obviously did get Nick Bryan back for his first game of the year, but Peter Wright still had more midfield ruck minutes than Bryan. Obviously, Bryan in his first game, but he's been good. I think he's been ruck 4 weeks now, and I think 3 of those 4 have been really good. The one bad one was Anzac Day. But he had 13 touches, 3 goals, 21 hit-outs. Really good game. Lockie Blackiston down back was solid for the Bombers. Sammy Durham is their 4th highest with 26 touches. And Xavier Dersma is the 5th highest rated player in this one for the Dons. If I can find his stats. If I can't, then I can't. He kicked 2 goals. Only 11 touches, but 2 goals, 3 clearances. Yeah, so that's the Bombers. Giants. Bombers probably had their opportunities. They miss them, but certainly a better performance than we've seen over the last couple of weeks for them. They probably consider themselves a little bit unlucky to have not won that game, but that's football. Giants, they sit 13th on the ladder now. 4 wins, 5 losses. They've gone win, loss, win, loss, win. They have West Coast this week, so it is over in the West, I believe, on Sunday evening. It's a must-win game for them. They win that. Finals is certainly on the cards. If they lose to the Eagles, then maybe that's season over. But it was a good performance, solid performance. They just need to try and string a few wins together. Now, the Bombers, they're 17th on the ladder, 1 win, 8 losses. Much better performance. They have Fremantle in Melbourne this week. That's not going to be easy. Fremantle obviously 2nd on the ladder. But this was a solid performance. Brisbane last week wasn't too bad. But they've shown some good signs, but they also have the habit of having some really bad games. So hopefully they can put it together again this week and play some good football here. And we'll see where that puts them, I guess. We moved to Saturday night football. We had 2 games on. The first one was up in Darwin. Gold Coast Suns continue their win streak at Darwin. They've won their last 9. They beat St Kilda by 29 points. It didn't always look convincing, but they got the job done. St Kilda came out of the blocks, kicking 5 goals to 1 in the first quarter, and it looked really good for them. They then lost Cal Wilkie due to a knee to the back, and it all went wrong for them. By halftime, Gold Coast had taken over the lead. They kicked 6 goals to 0 in the second quarter. They were 10 points up at halftime. And then it kind of just stayed around that 10 to 20 odd point margin. And then the Suns did kick the last couple to extend it out to 29 points as the final margin in this game. 13-11 to 8-12. So not the most accurate kicking, certainly from St Kilda's perspective. Team stats in this one. Suns had plus 20 disposals, plus 3 inside 50s. St Kilda dominated the clearance game, plus 18, plus 8 from centre clearance. Contested football went the way of the Saints, uncontested the way of the Suns. The turnover game, though, is in raw numbers before we get to scoring-wise, was probably the difference. St Kilda just turned it over too many times. It happens to teams a lot up in Darwin. It's the kind of style of football that you kind of get regularly up there. And it's a little bit more slippery. You got to adjust to it. Gold Coast, though, went well under their average. They only had 55 turnovers. They averaged 65, whereas St Kilda had 70. They averaged 68. So that's probably your difference, your main difference when you're looking at this game, was just the control of the football. Gold Coast certainly had a lot better than St Kilda throughout the 4 quarters of this match. Forward halftime was pretty level. Shots at goal plus 2 for Gold Coast. So as we said, St Kilda were inefficient at kicking at goal. Just 8 goals from 24 shots. So 1 out of every 3 times they were having a shot at goal, they scored the goal. So not great there, whereas Gold Coast kicked 13 out of 26, so 50% of the time. Other things, other scoring areas, kick-ins, plus 6 for Gold Coast. Stoppage, plus 4 for Gold Coast, even though St Kilda dominated the clearance game. And then from turnover, Gold Coast, plus 19. So they got more intercepts and they turned it into more scores. Defensive half, plus 25 for the Suns. Forward half, plus 12 for the Suns. And then the centre bounce was plus 8 for St Kilda. Brownlow votes were going Noah Anderson 3, Darcy Wilson 2, and Miller with 1. Worth noting, Nasiah Wanganeen-Malira was a late out for this game, which certainly hurt St Kilda's chances, and maybe the result would have been different if he was out there. Highest rated players, Gold Coast, Bodie Uland is number 1. Really good game from him. He's having a good season. Always been one of our favourites here. 29 touches. He was good. Noah Anderson in the middle, 31 touches, 4 clearances, 3 goal assists. Really good game. John Noble had a ton of it, certainly in the first 3 quarters. Ends up with 31 touches and a goal. Sam Collins down back. Good game from him. Intercept King, and Christian Petrarca is your 5th highest rated with 23 touches, 1 goal, 6 clearances, 2 goal assists. For the Saints, it was Darcy Wilson, 22 touches, 4 goals. He was huge and important for them. Jack Sinclair, he's always their go-to guy out of that back half, 25 touches and a goal, 600 metres gained. Bradley Hill, 25 touches. Hugo Garcia is having a good year. He was their 4th highest with 27 touches, 2 goal assists. Sam Flanders, 28 touches and a goal assist. Is the 5th highest rated Saint out there in this one. Going forward, Gold Coast Suns. They're 6th on the ladder, 6 wins, 3 losses. They have Port next week. They win that. It really does give them a really good spot because they're going to jump above one of the 2 teams above them in Brisbane or Geelong, no matter what, because those 2 teams play each other. So if Gold Coast can win against Port up in Darwin, they will go at least 1 spot up. Potentially 2 if Hawthorn go down to Melbourne. But yeah, so they're in a really, really handy spot. They had that little bit of a tough run, but they've won 3 of their last 4. They're getting things going. They should win again this week, you'd think, on paper. St Kilda, they are sitting 11th. 4 wins, 5 losses. Their percentage is pretty healthy. They have Richmond this week, so a really good opportunity for them to get themselves back on that winners list. They'd won 3 out of 4 before this week. So they're still in a really, really good shape after a tough start to the year. If they can knock off the Tigers this week, which, I mean, obviously they should be doing, especially at Marvel Stadium Sunday afternoon, they can really start to build their season up. But it doesn't get easy after that, though, because they have to go to Perth to play Freo. That's not going to be easy. They then have Hawthorn. Is at Marvel Stadium, though, so maybe a winnable game. And then Sydney, and Sydney's tough, round 13. I think once we get after their bye, they don't travel too much after that, so things might start to look a lot better for them in that run home. The other Saturday night game was, in the end, a bit of a thrashing. Geelong, 54-point winners over the Pies. 18-14, 122. Collingwood, 9-14, 68. It wasn't pretty. And it's another game that's a weird sort of game in many ways. Pretty close in the first half. Collingwood missed some opportunities. I think they kicked 2 goals 4 in that second quarter to 2 goals 3. Arguably could have been very close at halftime. Instead, they were down by 10 points. I felt like it probably should have been a little bit closer. And then Geelong made them pay. Straight out of the centre bounce in both the third and fourth quarters. Kicked a goal, Ollie Dempsey in the third, and then Sean Manor in the fourth. And Collingwood just couldn't stop them from scoring and creating really good opportunities, whereas Collingwood on the other side of the fence could get the ball forward plenty of times. They just couldn't link up, and then when they did, they just wasted really good opportunities. Their disposal efficiency was really quite bad throughout most of this game. Obviously, there's a couple of things I think to take from this game. Obviously, Austin Mullen was huge against Nick Dacos. Clearly won that matchup. And just, Collingwood's wastefulness around the ground, but also up forward. And Geelong made them pay throughout most of the game, and looked really good on the most part, did the Cats. Team stats, things worth noting. So Geelong had slightly more of the ball, plus 14 disposals. Collingwood actually had 7 extra inside 50s, which is wild to see in a game where they lose by 54 points, but we'll get deeper into that shortly. Clearance numbers, dead level, 35 apiece. Centre clearances, 13 apiece. But it's when you get to the scoring from clearances that just blows up a little bit. Contested footy, pretty level. Geelong had a bit more uncontested. Turnovers, pretty much level, 69-67. You're seeing a lot of numbers here that are very similar for both teams. And then you look at the scoreboard and you're like, how did that happen? How did it happen indeed? Is a valuable question. I don't think it should have been a 54-point margin, is my thoughts on the game. You look at expected score and it has Geelong plus 15. I think that's probably about where it should have been come the end of the game. Probably that 3 to max 5 goal margin. So I think 54 points, I think, makes people over-exaggerate this match a little bit. Maybe a little bit of bias from me, but I don't think so. I think genuinely Collingwood had plenty of opportunities and they wasted them. You look at shots at goal, Geelong 30, Collingwood 29. Yes, Collingwood had harder shots at goal most of the way, but they just didn't score. 29 shots at goal, kicked 9 goals. Geelong had 30 shots at goal, kick 18. That's pretty much your game right there. Collingwood couldn't stop them. There's no doubt about it, but at the same time, they should have been doing better offensively with the opportunities that they had. Like the ball was in their forward half slightly more than Geelong. They had that extra 7 inside 50s. Their disposal efficiency was down on Geelong's by 3%, but that's not a huge difference. But yeah, Geelong, take nothing away from them. They were very good, and as I said, they created some really, really good opportunities with their movement and their structure. They knew what they were doing and they succeeded at what they were doing. Score sources, we'll have a look at that. Stoppage, as I said, clearance numbers, dead level between both teams in both centre and stoppage clearances. But stoppage scoring, 53 Geelong, 29 Collingwood, plus 24. That's a huge difference right there. And you take the centre bounce. Geelong kicked 6 goals straight, Collingwood kicked 2 goals too. So both teams had 13 centre clearances. Geelong turned them in 6 goals from 13 centre clearances is absurd. That's really good. Collingwood just couldn't stop it, and Collingwood kicked 2 goals too. So I think that's your big thing to take from this game is the clearance numbers and the ability to score from clearances. Geelong did it really, really expertly. Go back and watch their centre bounce work. It was just perfect, especially the first one of the third quarter and first one of the fourth quarter. Absolutely perfect. What you want to see from a team. Scoring from stoppage was, as I said, massive, plus 24 for Geelong. Scoring from turnover, plus 31 for Geelong, which actually sounds better, obviously, than the stoppage, but I don't think it was as important as the stoppage scoring. Defensive half, Geelong moved it really well. 45 to Collingwood's 13. That 13 was 1 goal 7, though, so it could have been a little bit better for Collingwood there. Forward half was 41 apiece. Yeah, so that's the team stats. Brownlow votes were gone Bailey Smith 3, Max Holmes 2. I didn't know who to give the 1 vote to. I've gone Lawson Humphreys. It could go to about 6 different Geelong players, or a sneaky slight chance for Geordie De Goey, who was Collingwood's best player through the first 3 quarters of this game. Tailed out of it a little bit in the last, in my opinion, but yeah, that's how I see it. But Sean Manor could get votes. Austin Mullen absolutely could get votes. He definitely beat Nick Dacos. I think he was 12th highest rated player on the ground. Nick Dacos was 35th. So yeah, we'll see how it plays out. But that's how I do the Brownlow votes for that one. Highest rated player on the ground, Bailey Smith, clear best on ground, 40 disposals. His second half, especially the last quarter, was really good. Lawson Humphreys, really solid as well. He had plenty of the football. Did turn over 1 goal, but other than that was really good. Shannon Neal providing a really good target as he has all year. We've been saying this most weeks now. Really good target for them. 2 goals from 17 touches. And 428 metres gained as a key forward. That's pretty good. Reece Stanley was the best ruckman on the ground. And Maxi Holmes did what Maxi Holmes does best. Racked him up and played a really good game. I think he had, 33 touches, sorry. 2-goal assists. So good game from him. Collingwood, as has been a bit too much of common occurrence, their defenders are their highest rated players. Jeremy Howe, really good game, 20 touches. He didn't get beaten that many times. Obviously, once Darcy Moore went down, the whole backline had to reshape a little bit, and maybe that hurt them in that second half a bit. Dan Houston had a good finish to the game, 25 touches in this one. Geordie De Goey, as we said before, was their third highest rated player. He was good, especially through the first few quarters, 2.5 quarters. He ended up with 30 touches, 3 clearances. He was pivotal in most of their attacking efforts. Jack Crisp had 28 touches, 6 clearances. And Scotty Pendlebury, he's showing some good form. 27 touches and a goal in this one. But Collingwood go down by 54 points. That puts Geelong sitting 6 wins, 3 losses, 5th on the ladder. They head up to the Gabba to play Brisbane this week. They'll want some sort of revenge. Obviously, winning a mid-season game is nothing compared to a premiership, but they'll still want to go out there and win that game of football, you'd have to think. So that'll be an interesting game, and Collingwood also have a tough one. They head to Sydney to play the Swans, who are top of the ladder right now. So that's going to be a tough assignment for the Pies, but they need to find a way to stop teams from scoring from the centre bounce, which isn't going to be easy against one of the best midfield groups in the competition in Sydney this week. And they also need to find a way to be more efficient, like they were against Hawthorn. They were perfect up forward against Hawthorn, and then this week they were just about as bad as you can be. So 2 contrasting weeks for them. 2 games to go. We head to Sunday football, and we kick off with Demons West Coast. Marvel Stadium. Not too often do the Demons have a home game at Marvel, but they did this week against the Eagles, who had a much better trip there than they did a couple of weeks ago when they got beaten by 100 points to St Kilda. Only 32-point losers this time, but still lost nonetheless. 15,999 for the Demons, 9,1367 for the Eagles. Eagles kicked the first through Harley Reid, and then the Demons were up 33-8 at quarter time. It was out by 31 points at halftime. She was all over pretty early, let's be fair. 46 points at 3-quarter time. The Eagles won the final quarter, kicking 4 goals to 2 to end up losing by 32 points in the end. I think Melbourne were clearly the better team. I don't think they fully punished them as much as perhaps we thought they were going to, or looked like doing early on in the game, but they won, and that's all that matters in the end. Plus 11 inside 50s for the Demons, 58-47. Clearances pretty even in the end, 39-37 in favour of Melbourne. But the Eagles were plus 4 centre clearances. Good sign for them there. Contested and uncontested just went the way of the Demons. Turnovers pretty low. Both teams below average, which tells you maybe not the highest pressure game of all time. 112 marks for Melbourne also tells you that same stat. Tackle numbers reasonable. Nothing too outstanding. Disposal efficiency, Melbourne above normal. West Coast slightly below, but not too far off the pace. And jumping into some other team stats, important numbers in this one. Time in forward half was pretty much dead level between both teams. Shots at goal was 30 for Melbourne, 25 for West Coast, so plus 5 for the Demons. So they definitely made better use of their opportunities. And expected score had West Coast only just losing this by about 10 points. So maybe West Coast put up a fight. Maybe a little bit unlucky to have lost by 32 in the end. Most of the damage was done early, to be honest. Their second half was pretty good. Most of their numbers throughout this game, pretty good. In the end, Melbourne just, with the class that we've seen from them all season so far, were just too strong. Kick in, there was only 1 point for West Coast. Scoring from stoppages was 29 apiece, but it was turnover where Melbourne won this game, 70-37. Plus, what's that? 33. Absolutely controlled that side of the game. even though both teams had basically the same amount. Melbourne only had the one extra intercept, but to turn 60 intercepts into 11 goals for, really good efficiency. Whereas West Coast turned 59 intercepts into 5 goals 7. So Melbourne just controlled that side of the game. Transitioned pretty well from the back half, plus 20, from the forward half, plus 10, and then from the centre bounce was 3 goals straight for Melbourne to 2 goals 4 for West Coast. Brownlow votes, we're going Van Rooyen for the Demons. Another one that I kind of struggled a little bit on who to give the votes to. Van Rooyen kicked 5 goals out of Melbourne's 15. Not the high scoring game, and he kicked 5. He presented well, 15 touches. So I've given him 3. Harley Reid was West Coast's best. He was very good, especially early, 21 touches a goal, 2 goal assists. Had a massive impact in pretty much all of West Coast scores. And Jack Steele, I've gone with 1 vote. Ed Langdon, maybe unlucky. He had 29 touches, was good. Max Gawn, he was solid. But that's how I see it. Highest rated players for the Demons, Ed Langdon led the way. As I said, 29 touches, running up and down that ground. He did well. Jack Steele was their second highest rated player. Just 26 touches, but 3 goal assists. Maxi Gawn in the ruck was huge. 27 hit-outs, 5 clearances, 21 touches, and a goal. Cade Chandler having a good year after last year, maybe not quite up to his normal levels. This year he's back to his best, I think. And Jake Bowie, 5th highest rated. And then for the Eagles, it's Harley Reid on top. Really good game from him. He's having a good season after last year not being spectacular. Tim Kelly, 2nd highest rated for the Eagles. Then Liam Duggan. Then Tom McCarthy, who had plenty of it, 30 touches. And Jake Waterman, who, once again, could have had a really good game. But as has been the story of Jake Waterman this year, just failing to convert. 3 goals 5 this week. I think he's somewhere around about like 16 goals 25 or something ridiculous for the season. Might be even worse than that. I can't remember exactly the numbers, but yeah, if he was kicking a little bit straighter, this Eagles team would certainly be looking a little bit better, and his season would be talked about a lot more back towards those 2024 numbers where he absolutely dominated the competition for a fair chunk of the season. So yeah, that's where that one stands. Melbourne next week. So they sit 7th on the ladder, 6 wins, 3 losses. Really good start to the year. They have the Hawks this week. Not an easy one. If they were to win that, then you have to start putting them into your calculations. It's not an easy game, but certainly one that you have to open your eyes if they do beat the Hawks, who haven't been spectacular the last 2 weeks. West Coast on the other side of the fence, a 15th on the ladder, 2 wins, 7 losses. They haven't won for like 5 or 6 weeks. They play the Giants this week. It's not an impossible game. The Giants not playing great football, but you'd still expect West Coast to lose. But you never know. Based on this weekend, Giants only just beat Essendon. West Coast weren't terrible against Melbourne, so certainly not putting that one in the book just yet. That leaves us with 1 game to go for the weekend. Was the Tigers 9-7-61, losing to 14-14-98 from the Adelaide Crows. 37-point winners, the Crows, in a tightly fought game for the first 2 and a bit quarters. But the Crows, 3rd quarter, really turned this one around and walked away winners in the end. It was dead level quarter time. Half time, the Tigers were up by 10 points, and you're starting to believe, but Adelaide absolutely turned it on in that 3rd quarter. They kicked 5 goals to 0 in the 3rd quarter. 5 out of their 14 goals in that quarter, and then 4 in the last. So 9 goals second half. The Tigers only managed 2 goals 3 in the second half. So Crows ran away in the end, but not terrible by the Tigers. It's basically the long and the short of this. I think Crows were clearly the better team on the day, but it could have been a lot worse. Plus 40 touches for the Crows, plus 9 inside 50s for Adelaide. Disposal efficiency was huge from Adelaide, one of the best of the season so far, almost 80%. And that will tell you a lot of things about how this game was played and how it was just a matter of time before the Crows took control of this game. They were plus 40, plus 50 uncontested, plus minus 10, Richmond were good in the contest. Tigers won that by 10. Turnover numbers, Adelaide were 15 below their average, 55 turnovers. They usually have 70. Richmond also were below their average, 65 when they averaged 69. Marks, Adelaide had 141, Richmond 92. What's all these numbers telling you? It was a heavily uncontested game of football. It wasn't a high pressure game. And that's kind of been the story for Richmond's season. They need to find a way to up that a little bit because, allowing your opposition to go at almost 80% disposal efficiency, you're just not going to win the footy back off them if you're allowing that much uncontested marking throughout a game. Like 141 marks in a game is really high. There's no doubt about it. That's almost 50 above Adelaide's average. So, that's the long and the short of this game. Scoring wise and whatnot. Shots a goal, 27 to 18 in favour of Adelaide, so no surprise there. Had a lot more shots. They had more inside 50s. They had more ball in the forward half. They had more intercepts. They were the better team. There's no doubt about it. Richmond put up a bit of a fight, and at times looked okay, but in the long run, Adelaide were too strong. Richmond actually +8 from stoppage scoring, which is crazy. Both teams pretty low scoring there, 33 to 25. But both teams pretty even in clearance numbers total. Turnover wise though, Adelaide absolutely slaughtered Richmond on the turnover, scoring 72 points, whereas Richmond, who didn't get enough intercepts, obviously, but also didn't score from them, 27. So that's plus 45 in favour of Adelaide there. That's more than the actual margin. So tells you a lot. Defensive half scoring was 41 to 14 in favour of the Crows. Forward half was 55 to 40 in favour of the Crows. And only the one goal from the centre bounce this game against the run of a few games this weekend where centre bounce scoring was huge and pivotal. Richmond scored the only goal from centre bounce in this one. Brownlow votes, we've gone Rankin 3. He was outstanding in his run in the midfield. He hasn't had that much midfield minutes this year so far, but he was super in this one. 33 touches and a goal. He was clearly best on. Jordan Dawson was fantastic as well. 29 touches and a goal. Tim Taranto was Richmond's best. I think he might get votes. He had 28 touches, 9 clearances. Not always the most efficient player, but he was solid. Other players, Wayne Malira's a chance. He's been super. Rory Laird, Peatling, maybe the extent of it, possibly. Highest rated players for the Tigers, it was Jack Ross, again, in their top 5. He's been in their top 5 every single game this year, and he's number 1 this week. 26 touches, again, a high handball game, 8 kicks, 18 handballs, but solid from him. Tom Lynch could have had a day out. He was good, 14 touches, 3 goals, 2 goal assists. That's the kind of game you kind of want to see him playing. So good from him. Ben Miller is their next highest rated player. He had 18 touches. He was good down back. Noel Bolter playing that ruck hybrid role at the moment was good. Not as good as he was last week, but 14 touches and a goal. And as we said, Tim Taranto also had a good game. Adelaide Crows, Rankin. We mentioned it already. Best on ground. He was super. Wayne Malira, 34 touches. He's really good with the ball as well. They always want the ball in his hand, and rightly so. Jordan Dawson next. Josh Rochelli's probably the surprise one. Most people probably didn't have him in the top 5. Didn't have heaps of the ball, but 14 touches, 2 goals, 2 goal assists. Pretty sure, if I have a look at this, led the ground equal with Wayne Malira in score involvement, so 9. So pretty much every time he touched the ball, just about, they were scoring. So that tells you how important he is when he is getting the ball. 14 touches, 9 of those score involvements. And 5th, Lachlan McAndrew. He's been an absolute find in the ruck. He's having a great season. And he did the job again. He was slightly the best ruckman on the ground. Obviously, Richmond did play 2 people in that role, Oliver Hayes-Brown and Noel Bolter. That's pretty much a wrap on that. We'll just take a look at next week for both of these teams. Richmond 18th on the ladder, 1 win, 8 losses. Obviously that win last week. They play the Saints this week. Not going to be an easy match for them, especially at Marvel. So I wouldn't expect them to be winning that one, but strange things happen in football sometimes. Meanwhile, the Crows, they sit 8th on the ladder now, 5 wins, 4 losses. Their percentage slightly goes above 100. They have North Melbourne this week in maybe the most important game of the round. That's going to be an absolute cracker, I think. North Melbourne are playing some good football. Adelaide, they're trying to find their feet. I think they've found that they need to put Rankin in the midfield for more minutes because he is so dangerous in that role. In my opinion, that's where they should have him all like as much of a game as possible. But yeah, that's going to be a good game. Adelaide, North Melbourne. Yeah, that's all 9 matches. Now we'll jump into our Brownlow leaderboard after round 9. And it is as such. Bailey Smith leads the way. No, he doesn't. Sorry. Nick Dacos leads the way. What am I talking about? I was reading from the bottom bit. Lost the plot. Nick Dacos leads the way. Didn't get any votes this week. I can't see a world where he would get votes this week. But he still leads the way, 17 votes. Lachie Neale's having a sneaky good season. Could he be on for a 3rd Brownlow medal? He's on 16 votes. Zach Butters maybe gets a vote or 2 this week. He's on 15. And then it moves into a heavily congested spot after that. 3-way tie for 4th, Bailey Smith, Harry Sheasel and Marcus Bontempelli all on 13. 2-way tie in 7th, Jai Newcomb and Nashai Wanganeen-Malira, who didn't play this week, on 12. 9th is Clayton Oliver on 11. And then equal 10th is a 3-way tie between Bolton from Fremantle, who's having an outstanding year, Luke Davis-Yanaki, likewise on 10, and Isaac Heaney also on 10. So that's how I have the top 10. After round 9, she's going to be an interesting Brownlow night, I think, judging by what we've seen so far this year and what that means. MVP leaderboard. So top 5 rated players in our All Aussie Rules rating system for every game get votes. The winning team get 10, 8, 6, 4, 2 for the top 5. Losing team get half of that at 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And drawn matches, like there was one last week, splits the gap. Both teams get 7.5, 6, 4.5, 3, and 1.5 for the 5th rated. Leaderboard. After round 9, we have a new leader. She's tied at the top between the top 3, but new leader after, I think, 3 perfect weeks in a row. Luke Jackson takes the lead on 58 votes. He's been super. Takes the lead by 1 vote on Marcus Bontempelli. Max Gawn sits, I think he was first last week, so he's dropped down to 3rd, but still on 56. Then it's Cal Wilkie, who actually might have been leading last week because he didn't poll this week. He might have been the leader. He's down to 52 votes. Bailey Smith, having a super year. He's on 51. Brodie Grundy on 47 is in 6th. Then Christian Petrarca on 44, even though he missed a couple games. Luke Davis-Yanaki is in 8th on 41. Wayne Malira on 40. Top 10, he's having a great year. Lachie Neale in 10th on 39. And then equal 11th is Zach Butters and Isaac Heaney, both on 38 votes after round 9. And how did our tips go this weekend? Well, on the podcast, we go 8 out of 9. 9 out of 9 favourites won. And in my actual tipping, I did do 9 out of 9. But I went with Port for some reason. Anyway, Fremantle, we said by 6. They win by 15. Pretty close. Good enough. We said Brisbane by 37. They only won by 11, but close enough. We said 2 points in the Port Adelaide Bulldogs game. It was 2 points, but we went the wrong team, so we're slightly off there, unfortunately. Sydney, we said 9 points. They won by 8. Pretty close there. Giants won by 14. We said 21. Not too bad. Gold Coast we had by 14. They won by 29. Geelong we said 12. They smashed Collingwood by 54 points. Melbourne by 45. They won by 32. And rounding out the weekend, we were 1 point off. We said the Crows by 38. They won by 37 points. We go 8 out of 9. We're 58 out of 81 on the season. A good weekend. Pretty close on most of the games in terms of margin. Pretty good accuracy there, I believe. And that is a wrap on this episode. Thank you for watching. Make sure you come back on Thursday for the preview of round 10. There's 9 big games coming up next weekend. We kick off Thursday night, Brisbane Geelong at the Gabba. 2 games on Friday, Sydney Collingwood SCG, Gold Coast Port Adelaide in Darwin. Saturday kicks off with a cracker, Adelaide North Melbourne at Adelaide Oval. Melbourne Hawthorn, another big game, MCG, that one. Carlton Bulldogs round out the Saturday night fixtures at Marvel Stadium. And Sunday we've got Essendon Fremantle at the MCG. St Kilda Richmond at Marvel Stadium. And the final game of the round, West Coast GWS Optus Stadium, Sunday evening. So come back for that. Make sure you hit that follow or subscribe button if you haven't already. Go check out all the social medias. All Aussie Rules everywhere. We're posting most days somewhere along the lines. So go check that out. A lot of content. Team of the week. Match reviews. Everything. Go check them out. I don't think there's much else to say. I'm John. This is the All Aussie Rules Football Podcast. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I hope your team played well. I hope they played better than my team did. We'll be back later in the week. Until then, I hope you enjoy your week, and I will catch you on the next one.